Coming up today, roundabout update. I was at the David Brown factory well after it had closed, and Andrew's doing the interior of his 4955 and also a quick tour of the cab of a Merlo. Last night I went to a charity ball and it was actually at where the Case tractors, the David Brown tractors used to be made at the mill at Meltham. Anyway, I'm coming round the roundabout now. The new roundabout, the roundabout update is this. So we've got, I don't know, a third of it maybe. Nearly looks complete that we've just gone round. Maybe half perhaps, but not bad in 10 months I suppose. Anyway, here's a little bit of a video of the fireworks last night over the top of the old David Brown factory. Charlotte got in the red. As well as the fireworks last night at the ball, they had like these lasers that sort of like went like that across the sky, and I need one for the top of that or the back of that for the tractor run, so when people are watching you can see it coming for miles, just this like beam, bit like the bat laser. So does anyone know where I can get one of them from that I can like project up? Or even if it'd be great if it was in the shape of a tractor. Andrew's just come up with a classic blonde moment. He said, why don't you light the wheels up black? I was like, how can you light something up with black? It's like, oh, you can get black LEDs. It's like, I bet you can't. So anyway, you can't. You'd have to paint the wheels black because you can't obviously get black LEDs because black is not a colour, it's obviously darkness, so it's a bit silly. But yeah, we're going to try and get this better and brighter than it was last year. Got some Amazon deliveries, mostly lights for the tractor run for putting on the tractors. Quick flood update, it's now gone completely. There's only just a little bit left in the bottom of the ditch over there. It's a bit of a brown stain on the field where it's been a bit mucky, but the wheat is still green, so hopefully it'll make a full recovery. Bit of a magpie there. I think they're looking for the dead worms. In fact, there's loads of magpies. So when the water's on there for so long, it squashes all the air out the soil and kills the worms, and then they end up on the surface. So normally seagulls eat them, but for some reason there's about, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 magpies. I can't remember the rhyme. I don't think it goes that high, does it, the magpie rhyme? Someone was asking for a cab tour of the Merlo, so while I'm in it, I'll show you. So you've got forwards and backwards on this lever. So you literally just tap it forwards, tap it again, it's backwards, or you've got neutral if you click it to the middle. You've got 3 pedals, if you can see them. That is like a clutch, but really it's just what we call a dump pedal. So it kills the drive, so you can rev the engine. But with that, you can lift your foot up and down and ease how fast or slow you go with full revs on. So you can drive it with the hydraulics acting really fast, but your forward speed controlled on that. They call it an inching pedal, and you've got a brake just like anything else. You've got a 2-speed gearbox. It lives in high all the time. The only reason you use tortoise is if something's stuck and you're shoving it out. You've got a few switches here which just do stuff to do with that dashboard. Indicators, lights, horn. Then we've got the button there for something to do with the regen. So if you were in a building and you didn't want it to regen, I think you can turn it off, because otherwise it'd kick all smoke out the back. Someone might correct me on that, but I think that's what it's for. You've got a flashing beacon, you've got front and back work lights, you've got boom lights, you've got the boom suspension switch, you've got loads of dust, you've got something there for the radiator to reverse the fan, and then also you can limit the speed of it going. So if you had a bucket brush on and you just didn't want to go very fast, you could flick that on and turn the revs up, and then you could operate at high revs without moving too quick. You've got an isolation switch here, which if it overloads you can twist it round. So sometimes when we're pushing grain up, we don't want the overload on because it stops us doing what we want to do, so we twist that and that stays on. We've got a joystick that's for some reason a screw looks like it's coming out of. It's quite loose, that, isn't it? Screws fell out of it. Yeah, you've got neutral on there. You've also got forwards and backwards. You've got the boom in and out, and then the pin for the boom. Lifting it back lifts the boom up, pushing it forwards pushes the boom down. That tips the bucket, that kills the bucket up. You've got button here, which is your menus for on that screen, and then that flicks between the different things. In fact, let me just get the key and show you. Yeah, so you got that button there, that flicks through, that selects it, on the screen, you twist the dial. So you've got different settings here. So you've got that one there, which is the rear camera, and then the weigh loader is that one. Click on that, and then that tells you what it weighs every time you pick the bucket up. So the last time this was reset, it's moved 9,800 tons of whatever, whether that be chip or grain. So if we press the reset button here now, that'll clear. And the next time we go lifting stuff up, every time the boom gets over 20 degrees, it will take a weight and it adds them all up at the bottom down here. So it's quite handy when you're weighing a wagon. You have to turn it when you've got whatever bucket on the front. So if you look, that's turned at 0.03. So that, don't know which bucket that was, but you get the bucket on and you put it to 20 degrees and you press turn, and then it remembers the weight of the bucket. So then it's only weighing what's in the bucket, not the weight of the bucket and what's in it, if you get me, because it needs to know what's on the front. You've got the handbrake switch here, which has to be on to start it. You've got 3 different steering modes, and then you've also got the hydraulics on the back or the hydraulics on the front to release the pin, and then a hazard light switch. Power points and a spirit level so that you can see how level you are. We're obviously parked on a ramp at the moment, so it's not level. And then we've got a cup holder which people put all the cups in that rattle when they've finished having a brew in the morning. And you've got your load charts then, which is tells you you're both at scale, and you're not supposed to use it over a certain mile per hour of wind. So I think it's saying anything above 28 kilometers an hour, you shouldn't use it, otherwise you start coming into these danger zones. And then we've got a radio up at the top there, and then we've got a broken camera mount. We've got a blind, which rattles, which is a bit silly, but they do. And then on this screen here, we've got the fuel gauge, temperature gauge, and then how much AdBlue's in it, and a rev counter, and then the hours on the clock. And it's now saying, a little spanner saying it needs a service as well. You got a release for the pickup pitch here. Can holder down there, screen wash, little cubby hole as well. Oh, 20 quid, that's handy. Yeah, split door, so you can have that door folded right the way back and still work with it. Some machines that won't go all the way back, or even this won't go all the way back, and it only goes to sort of that way, whereas this will fold all the way around and click completely out the way, which is handy if you're just hopping in and out all the time, especially on the little one. The little one doesn't have this on either. This is if you're going to overload, these lights start lighting up, and then when they start getting red, it means you're going to tip over. And it also bleeps at you really loud. In the Minimon now, pretty similar, apart from you've not got this little dashboard above the steering wheel. You've got one there instead, which is more analog, a bit more basic. And then you've not got this load chart on here with the lights. Don't know why that is, but you've still got this one here to sort of like tell you what it'll lift and what it won't. But it doesn't have one there, so no idea. But it does bleep at you if you overload it. It's also, as well, this one, it has forwards and reverse down here, but it's a bit bigger lever than the other. But it doesn't have it on the joystick, which is really annoying, because when you've been in the other one all day and you're like, well, forwards, backwards, and you're getting this and it's not there, you're like, ah. Now, the guys at Merlo did tell me that they thought that the joystick could be fitted into this one, the same as the others. So, I don't know, maybe I should ring them up and see what they can do with that, just to make it a little bit more user-friendly between the 3 machines. Because when you're on the other 2 all the time and then you jump on this, you think, oh, what's going on? We have kind of got used to remembering to go back down here, but it's far easier if you can use it on your thumb. Right, the other day I was going through some fertilizer costings and I never showed you what they were, so I've got them on the board here, so I'll flip the camera around. So this year versus last year. So last year fertilizer was costing £122 per hectare. This year it's going to cost around 257 at what I've bought it at, and it's gone up since when I've bought it. So if you had a 9-ton crop, last year it was costing you £13.50 of that ton of wheat to produce it at that ton of wheat had £13.50 worth of fertiliser in it. This year it'll have £28.55. A 10-ton crop is easy to work out because it's just £12.20 or £25.70. So I've not done it for a 10-ton crop. So that's a 9-ton crop, which is probably what we maybe averaged across the board this year. Some was doing 10-ton and maybe a bit over. Some little bits, a bit flooded and whatever, did a bit less. If you look on like a bad year, so a 7-ton crop, it could be costing you £17 a tonne for the fertiliser in your wheat last year. This year it could be costing you £36 a tonne. Now, that is between £13 and £19 a tonne more than last year. Last year's future prices around this time of year were about 160-ish for next November. This year they're around 200. So the price is up £40 a tonne, yet we're only really between £13 and £19 a tonne off, depending on the price of only really between £13 and £19 a tonne worse off, depending on what yield we get. But, and we're £40 up. But the problem is, tractor fuel is 3 times what it was last year. So that doesn't help. And also, fungicides, herbicides, and different sprays and things like that, they're likely to be up. So if they're all up like more than 20 quid as well, suddenly your 40 quid extra for your grain is completely eroded. So that just means now that it's the same game, but the stakes are higher. So in other words, we're gambling more money growing each crop on the risk that we get a return when we harvest it. So we're no worse off officially, but we've got the risk now of being worse off if we have a bad yield or we have a drought or things like that. So it's the same game, just different rules. But it would have been nice to have a good year of selling stuff and not hyperinflation on the inputs first, and then we'd have a bit back for the bad years that we've had in the past when we've had these last few droughts. But it doesn't work like that, does it? So there we go. But don't panic too much about spending on your fertiliser, because it's still paying you back. It's just your risk's just far higher than it used to be. Just another little aside, so £257 a hectare to grow it in fertiliser costs. If we didn't spend that, we'd probably lose £500 to £600 a hectare in yield. So it's still paying you back. Quick quiz question while we're in the workshop. Well, I'm in the workshop. Has anyone noticed anything different from last week? And I don't mean something that was parked on the ramp, but there's something quite different inside here that no one seems to have noticed that we did the other day. If you think you know, leave a comment below. That looks good. Look at that there now. Nice new interior in the 4955. Look at Chloe hiding. Quick, Chloe, look.
No.
This is Chloe and Andrew's 4955 adventure. They're going to start an Instagram channel. Living off grid with Andrew and Chloe. Just putting the last pillar on now. Chloe supervising. Let's have a look at your finger, Chloe.
No, it's got a minging thing.
It's got a plaster on because Andrew trapped it in the door last week and the nail's going to fall off. Just need a panel for here, don't you? Has anyone got a panel for here for a 4955 or any John Deere with a bubble cab on? If you have, let him know. A what?
FG2 cab.
FG2 cab S. Needs a fuel tank putting back on as well. Number plates have arrived for the trailers, so that's the same as the MB tracks, and now we can put them on the trailers and we don't have to keep swapping number plates every time we trade a tractor in, because we'll keep the MB track forever. Chester's doing the birthday bumper. He's confused. Loads of birthdays today. Happy birthday to all you lot, and there's your Chester update. Oh yeah, forgot to say as well, that tyre was off a crane. So a crane had a blowout at the bottom of the road and it was a huge tyre, and I thought it'd be good for blocking gates. So the company that swapped the tyre gave it to me. So that's where that came from. And I can't believe how many people actually guessed that right. I didn't think anyone would guess it was off a crane, but loads of people did. So well done. That's all for today. I've got a couple of outros been coming in off Instagram, so here's one of them, and I'll see you tomorrow.